Okay, I'm so excited for our conversation today. I'm Maura Eliza, traditional naturopath, and I love meeting with experts in the field just because there's so many amazing tools to help you move on, recover, and heal from a toxic relationship that you might not even know about. And our guest today, Samantha Hawley, is absolutely one of them. She's a podcaster and she has developed a fantastic journaling process that really helps you move the bar. So if you've been interested in journaling and just struggling to make it meaningful or to feel like you got something out of it, she's going to tell you exactly what to do and the most common mistakes. So thanks for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So let's just get started with like just share a little bit about what was going on in your life because this is your signature method. You're not like certified in somebody else's program. You created this from your own life experiences. And if you don't mind sharing a little bit about what was going on that led you know that you needed something like this.
Yeah. Yeah. So with journaling, I used to journal, but I think that it was very surface level in the sense that I would journal gratitude or affirmations, things that were like, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for the weather today, especially living in Western New York. It's, not sunny and a lot of snow all the time. So things like that, which of course I'm truly grateful for these things, but
Mm-hmm.
it didn't make me feel a certain way, or the affirmations was I am wealthy, I am loved, I am all of these things. But when it really hit home for me that I needed something deeper and something more was in 2020. I feel like we all have a COVID story, probably a relationship COVID story, if we're being honest.
True.
For me, it was that I had my son in October of 2020. And I was living away from family. So it was just me and my ex-husband at the time, and we were living in the Outer Banks next to it was just us, no friends or anything,
Oh wow.
and having a newborn with someone that I felt connected to. He was kind of all that I had, but having a child, I almost felt like it instantly reprioritized things for me, and it made me realize that I could no longer be on the bottom of the list almost. Like I always put my, husband on the top in the sense that I wanted to make sure he was happy and I wanted to make sure we were happy, even if it meant that I sacrificed what I wanted to do or what I wanted to say. And having my son, he now was at the top, which of course like 100% was totally fine with me. But that now meant that I was at the very bottom. And I knew that that just like did not feel right for me. And I felt it in the sense of overwhelm. I was just thinking, this is a lot. And that was the word that kept coming up was this is a lot. I am like, there's just so many responsibilities now. And I felt like I was dropping all of the balls with motherhood and work and in my marriage and not staying connected to my family and all of these things. And I didn't know how to voice it. And so I remember sitting on the couch one night and I excused myself to go journal. And I just picked up a random notebook that I had for my business at the time. And I locked myself in the spare bedroom because I didn't know if I was going to cry or nothing at all. I had no idea what was going to come out of me. But I just sat in that room and I did end up crying. And I wrote for 3 pages of just like venting, but it felt so much deeper than gratitude and affirmations. It was I think the first time that I honored the difficult emotions, the challenging emotions, the fact that I was not okay. And I felt okay saying those things. And I didn't come up with any solutions at the time, but just honoring the hard and getting a glimpse of what I actually wanted and how I wanted to feel and putting aside the positive Pam version of me felt so good and so freeing. So that was the beginning of me even thinking of journaling to then creating a process out of it.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing because my program actually started as an overwhelm program too. Like I have a
Oh,
strong journey within overwhelm, and yeah, the and same with having children. It just gives it just like wipes clean what you thought the world was
Yeah.
and kind of makes you see things in such a different way. And suddenly you're looking, I mean, in my case, I was looking back at my family of origin and like growing up, and yeah, it did make me also look at my relationship and where I was putting myself. And I love that you found the journal was in a sense holding space, because you're not your journal is obviously not going to say anything reassuring back to you, but it allowed you to hold space to express what you didn't have, it sounds like, a space to express at that time.
Yeah, and I almost think that it allowed me to slow down enough where I was getting, again, it wasn't answers at this time, but I was getting that silence and that pause and not the just loops of what should I do next in terms of responsibilities or what should I buy next so that my baby will stop having meltdowns? What should I,
Mm,
it's just nonstop thoughts as a mom and in whatever capacity that we're currently in, that journaling allowed me to slow down. And there's actually research behind the mind to hand coordination and
oh.
slowing down. Yeah, that eventually I got to a point where I was getting validation and reassurance and getting that so that I was not getting stuck in the emotion. And that's something that I hear a lot and a fear that I hear from women as to why they don't want to journal. They think, why would I want to sit in that? But that's what my process does is it allows you to feel it because that's the first step is you need to know what it is and to feel it in order to move through it. But then you start getting that clarity of what is it that you really want. And then I always end with steps to get there. And
Mm,
so for me, we had decided, my husband at the time decided that we were going to move back to my hometown for more support, which was, of course, very welcome by me being right next to my family. I lived right next door to my family,
mm,
and just having them was amazing. And I knew in that journal entry, I knew we had been discussing it, and I knew that that was not going to be good for our marriage, but I wanted it so badly, like that
mm,
support and my family. And as soon as I got home and having that support around me, I felt like I had the safety to then really see what it was that I wanted and really see what my marriage was and
mm,
how maybe the behaviors that I had and how I was betraying myself. And
mm,
I realized I think my marriage situation was a lot of emotional abuse. I
mm,
was constantly walking on eggshells and constantly like doing anything and everything so that he wouldn't get upset. And I couldn't see that when I didn't have a child and like anything was fair game. I felt so independent and so sure of myself until it just like completely flipped and like the veil was taken off once I had this new responsibility and wanted my son to truly see what an independent woman is like and truly see how a woman should be treated. And also, I realized what I deserved in a marriage. And I got all of that through journaling. And so, journaling encouraged me to identify those things. And my steps were really at that point having a conversation, letting him know what it was that I wanted, which felt so challenging and so hard to do.
yeah, I just love the insight and the like information that you're like gaining, the problem solving that you're gaining from within yourself. I talk a lot with my clients about how affirmations, and sometimes can just be spiritual gaslighting, because you almost like, or bypassing, it's kind of the same thing, but you've got like this conscious thing, and you're trying, it's the hard way of trying to change the subconscious, like repeating, repeating,
Mm,
repeating, repeating.
yeah.
But when you can get underneath, and it sounds like that's similar to what you do with your journaling process, that you allow yourself the freedom to like let whatever come up, and it's a way to tap into almost the subconscious. And that's where the actual work happens, when you get the
Mm,
information there, you sit with what you're seeing, and then make those
yes.
steps to move.
And things happen so fast once you get there. Like my ex and I ended up splitting up when my son was 10 months old
Oh
because
wow.
once you see it, once you have that clarity and you see the future for what it can be and you have that hope and you can see it and like taste it, you can't unsee it. And you know like what it is that you're missing out on. And it takes so much courage to even entertain that idea. And again, I think that's one thing that gets in the way of women seeking help in any sense of the word, right? Journaling, therapy, working with you. But once you see it, you can't unsee it and you want to put things in motion. And so at 10 months old, we split up and I almost feel like I'm lucky in this sense that my ex actually moved away. He moved down to Florida and my son and I live in New York State. So while it's insanely overstimulating to have full custody of my son, I don't have him near me at all. So I've been able to heal and grow and raise my son on my own, which again is a lot, but I don't have that ex situation also nagging at me, which I was really afraid of. That was like something that I was thinking of for sure when I split up from my ex.
And certainly a lot of women do go through that. I just did a
Yeah.
podcast and a conversation with Chelsea, who we talked about high chaos, um, what are they, high chaos, high conflict exes, and like how to manage it.
Mm.
So it is such a blessing. It's just kind of like you pick your hard,
Yeah.
in a sense, like the hard of full time mothering, or
Yeah.
the hard of maybe not full time mothering, but the other chaos that can come
Yeah.
along, which journaling would also be able to help you with that too, because you gain so much insight and focus on there. So you mentioned the affirmations and the gratitude journaling. I love that you touched on that, because it's such a like cultural norm now, like, oh, just gratitude journal, you need a gratitude journal. It's like, no, sometimes I need the gratitude to journal about the shit that's like shitty and how shitty it
Yeah.
is.
Yes.
That's like, it sounds like that was kind of like, not in a sense a mistake, or like something that you were doing that was like making it, keeping you from getting as deep with your journaling. Any other things that come up with women, um, in terms of like what gets in the way of them getting really deep with their journaling?
Yeah, so I would say the first, like I mentioned, is being afraid of what it means. I think that
Mm.
a lot, if not all of the answers are within. And so on some maybe unconscious, subconscious level, we know what we should be doing. We know like what the result is going to be, whether it be within a year or 10 years from now. And we're just stalling on what what it's going to be or when we're going to do it. And I went to an event. It was a Brendan Burchard like business conference event before I was even married. I believe I was engaged at the time. And I showed up to this event and I think I had my first panic attack. And I don't know why. I was just like almost like hyperventilating, worried about what I was going to uncover at this event. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, this is so random because I'm excited for my business to grow and all of this stuff. And while you're there, he challenges you to think deeply about what it is that you're going through. And what I chose to talk to the group about whenever there was a discussion was binge eating disorder,
Mhm.
because that was something that I had struggled with and was currently on my mind because I was binge eating a lot. And I knew that that was like surface level. That's a deep concept, obviously, but like that wasn't it. What I
Mhm.
really needed to be asking myself about was, should I be marrying this man? And
Mhm.
even if we backtrack when we were dating, I knew that there were certain things that I was walking on eggshells even when I was dating him, and I knew I didn't want that in a partner. So it's just like I kept you know, betraying myself, convincing myself that he would change,
Mhm.
and delayed, you know, or procrastinated because I wanted to keep myself safe. Ultimately, that didn't work out. And I think that when it comes to women, what gets in the way of women is we know the answer and we just are avoiding the solution. And so, but being open to the fact that journaling or seeking therapy or joining a program or whatnot doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a divorce or it's going to be this like 180. What it means is that it's going to give you the clarity to see what you want and then give those people in your life, if it is a people situation, the chance to really see you for you, the chance for you to become authentic and them to level up. It just so happens that myself and a lot of you guys probably listening, those in our life did not level up. But I think that is the caveat or the workaround to that fear is knowing that you just become more of you. And that's the way that you manifest the life that you want is being more of you. And then the other thing that gets in the way specifically to journaling is that people don't think that it's worth their time,
Mm.
which honestly I get because a lot of people think it's surface level. You have experience with journaling, but how often was that Dear Diary or, the basic gratitude or something? And so that's why I really teach that you should be journaling about the shitty moments. It's trying to tell you something, right?
Yeah.
Those overwhelming emotions that you're experiencing, they aren't just chaotic, busy to-do list items. They are actually following predictable patterns of self sabotage
Mm.
that were ingrained in us since we were kids, like between 5 and 7 years old, and also reconditioned during our relationships. And
Mhm.
so identifying these patterns, like getting right to the juicy meat of the stuff, right? That's what I love. And once you experience that, you want more of it. You want to get to the root of it because you feel so free afterwards.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I always say that your ex holds your healing codes and that,
Mm,
what you entered into that relationship with were like the dynamics that you needed to heal. So like
I
it
love
just
that.
changes the instead of them coming at you and yes, they are sometimes they are attacking. They are, and
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with you. It has to do with all their, but we just let them do whatever they're
Yeah.
going to do. When you are like realizing like, oh, okay, this person had held my healing codes. What did he have that I wanted so badly that I would put up with XYZ or betray myself? Or, what did I grow up thinking it meant to admit that I needed help or, whatever it is. And so getting to like to yourself after having been through that toxic relationship is one thing that women tell me that they really, really struggle with. So I love that you have like kind of encapsulated at least part of like the program and you bring them all the way to the resolution within your journaling.
Yeah, and it's not just one time that you do this, it comes up over and over again, right? And so I did this process and I didn't realize it was a process initially, but I did it when I was in the thick of it when I was still married. And then I did a whole lot of it as I was going through the divorce because they always say that the person you marry is not the person that you divorce, right? There's so much pettiness that comes out and like claws come out on both sides and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you work through like, oh my gosh, why did I respond in this way? Why?
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I noticed in the divorce is I felt like I needed to respond to every message. And I
Yeah.
was going to therapy as well. And I remember asking my therapist about something, and she just said, why are you responding within 5 minutes? Why don't you take 5 hours? And I literally felt like, what? Like, how could I wait that long? That means blah, 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 like
Mm.
that I'm not like hearing them or all of these limiting beliefs popped in my head or judgments popped in my head. So I used my journaling process through that. And then also just the fact that I don't want to be repeating the behaviors that got me into that marriage. And I think a lot of women want, a lot of humans, we want to grow. We don't want to stay where we are, especially if we don't like where that got us. And so I use this journaling process a lot anytime I start to feel or just start to get curious around behaviors that I didn't love about myself. Like I knew for a while in different capacities in my life that I was a people pleaser. But after going through my divorce, it really stuck out in certain like memories. I was like, why did I say that? I did not even mean that. Or I never really spoke up when I was around my ex's family? Why was I so quiet? What was I protecting or what was I trying to like not say? Why was I trying to be so small, right? So all of these questions started bubbling up, and that's also where I used this blueprint. And now that I'm years out, it's also like, who do I want to become and why, how do I want to become her and what's getting in my way? What another one of my sabotage patterns is the avoider or the procrastinator. So I
Mhm.
know what I have to do and I'm not doing it. And why am I not doing it?
I love that. So, just to be a little bit more like, make sure that we're covering it. I work with a lot of women who are experiencing a lot of self doubt. They don't feel connected to themselves. Um, they don't trust themselves, or they struggle to trust their decisions. And sometimes they've come out of dynamic in that toxic relationship where the person was intentionally manipulating them to make them not trust themselves.
Mm.
So, do you have any suggestions for women who are working on that right now?
Yeah, I think maybe I'm just in my self-trust era, but I think everything comes back to trusting yourself. And it's so hard when you are convinced otherwise because that is, you have to, there's little bits and pieces to work on. It's not going to be like you wake up one day and somebody tells you that you need to start trusting yourself. And you're like, oh, okay, I've
Like,
got
flip the
this.
light switch. I got
Right. Yeah.
it.
It's, you have to start trusting yourself in small moments, is what I would recommend. And the way that you can do that is identify all the ways in which you don't trust yourself.
Mhm.
A big thing that you'll notice once I share that the blueprint with my journaling is that we don't jump from the awareness of how you're feeling and whatnot to problem solving, which is very natural for human beings to be like, I feel this way. I don't like it. So what should I do instead? We
Mhm.
take some time to analyze, why don't we feel this way? What is in the way? What's feeling icky? What judgments are there? What expectations? Because if we don't do that, and we jump to the problem, all of that is still there. We're still wondering what other people are thinking of us, even though we quote unquote know that we shouldn't, right? We're still wondering all of these things. And so I would make a list of all of the ways that you don't trust yourself. And in the beginning, it's going to be, I don't trust myself to know what to make for dinner. I don't
Mhm.
trust myself that I'll even wake up on time without an alarm.
Mhm.
I had a coaching session inside my small group coaching, and we had a session only on autopilot behaviors.
Mhm.
And one of my clients said that she feels like she's on autopilot because it keeps her safe. And she can trust herself when she is on autopilot because she just knows it's like routine things, right? She knows she's going to get things done. Whereas if she was not on autopilot, that does not feel safe.
Mhm.
That feels, she feels like she wouldn't wake up without the alarm. And it's just so interesting because I, my son sees his dad rarely, but most recently he did actually see him down in Florida for a week for Easter break. And during that time, I did not set my alarm at all. And I just kind of woke up with the sun. And shockingly, I think it helped that I was getting a full night's sleep. My son was not here to wake me up. But shockingly, I was waking up at like between 6:30 and 7:30 a.m., which is unheard of for me. Normally it's like 9 a.m., 10 a.m. And I was truly still, I'm like, what, how is this happening? Anyways, it felt so good because I had the whole morning to myself, right? All day. And I felt so energized too. And when my son came back, I thought that felt great because I used to set my alarm for 6:30 and feel the need to snooze it 7 times, but waking up naturally at 6:30, I bounced out of bed. So I'm not going to set my alarm and still see what time I wake up. And it's been over a month now, and I'm still waking up between 6:30 and 7:15 is when my son wakes me up. But I normally, like 99% of the time, I've been waking up on my own. And I feel like I trust my body more without the alarm. When
Um,
I don't, the other morning was actually the first morning that my son woke up before me. And I had a morning where I journaled a lot because I felt so upset, not upset, that's too big of a word, but I felt upset that I felt like I betrayed myself almost, also too big of a word, but that I couldn't trust myself to wake up before my son. And that I felt like I needed to go back to an alarm almost, which I haven't yet. But it was
Mm.
just so interesting. So, going back to that list, like, what are the small ways that you've been not trusting yourself and then picking a few or maybe even one way to just see if you can trust yourself. See if you can trust that you will stick to the exercise program that you want to,
Mm.
or see if you can trust yourself with actually going out with a friend and saying what you want to say
Mm.
without like not without saying like muffling what you actually want to say or like
Yeah,
only
totally.
like dancing around certain topics and things
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, that's what I would say too. With the whole self-trust, everything comes back to trusting the decision that you know that you want to make, but you're not making it.
Yeah.
What you want to wear, but you're not wearing it. The partner that you want to have, but you're actively not going out to pursue them, right? It's
Or dating or
trusting
whatever.
the answer that you have. So it's hearing your voice and then trusting your voice.
Yeah, yeah. That's so, and I really like, and I want to like underline the part where you said even just one
Hmm.
place where you trust, because I think, and I'm totally guilty of this. I like to build this elaborate protocol, and
Yeah.
it's going to be 12 things a day, and then my life's going to be amazing in 2 weeks. And it's really not how it goes. What actually happens is in about a week I crash. Like,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
it almost feels too easy to just pick one. But really, that is the path to real change, is just to pick one small thing and see how it changes and see how it helps. I mean, I talk about my bath. Like, I one small thing that I started years ago was a bath on Sunday nights, my self-care night. I put the
Yeah.
kids to bed. I mean, my kids are a little bit older, so I can tell them like, hey, just get me if the house is burning down. This is like, I'm off mom duty now,
Mhm.
and I take a bath and I do some journaling and I do some like, that connecting with myself. I started it 7 years ago, and it was just one thing, and it sees me through. It's still like such a powerful thing, but I made
That's
sure to
so
make it
good.
not complicated.
Yeah, that's the thing, not complicated, and it can be quick too. So maybe you want to start journaling. Another thing that gets in the way is people assume it needs to be like an hour long,
Mm-hmm.
when the research behind it is that you can receive the benefits of less stress, less overwhelm, improved immunity. You can actually heal your body physically faster by journaling 3 to 5 days a week
Oh,
for 5 to 15 minutes. So
oh
the
wow.
on the low end, just 3 days a week, any 3 days for 5 minutes.
Oh, that
Uh,
fits right in with like we talk about German New Medicine on your podcast,
yeah,
and
yeah,
like how it de-escalates the conflict. Like, I use a find it, feel it, heal it, seal it method, and it sounds like your journaling process is pretty much a way of doing that, because there's multiple ways to do it that I go over. And it's like being able to identify what's bugging you is like a huge thing, and then
yeah.
being able to just calmly resolve it, being able to bring your nervous system overall down. And sounds
Yes.
like the way you're doing journaling is like huge for that.
Yeah. And I think too, the last thing for the self-doubt to self-trust and whatnot would be to have a proof list, because sometimes these things do feel so small that we think, it's so small, it doesn't matter, or missing one night won't matter, or, all these doubts come in that we just stop doing it after a week, like you said, or we minimize the impact that it's actually making. So making a proof list of the things that you are doing,
Mm.
and or what's more impactful is the ways that you are trusting yourself, the ways that you did trust yourself today. I've also called this like my accomplishment list, but that's more so even like I showered today, I did this client call today, I did these things. But my proof list is I said that I was going to do wake up and I did not snooze the button at all, right? Something like that.
Mm.
Like you trusted yourself in this capacity, or I followed through on my bath. One of my private clients once was really doubted her trust in herself that she would follow through. And for her, her one task was remembering that her coffee was in the microwave and trusting herself that she would get it, that she wouldn't leave it in there.
When it's hot.
Yeah, exactly. And then that was added to her proof list. And just that she realize how often she actually did trust herself throughout the rest of the day because she intentionally wrote, like mentally remembered, like, oh, I actually got my coffee while it was hot. What are these other areas that I also trusted myself today?
Yeah.
This happened at work. This happened with my kid. And so it just kind of starts to build up from there.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So they're literally writing down on a list. They have like a journal or something where they write
Mhm.
down, oh, I noticed that throughout the day. They're making a little.
Yeah. And I would even encourage something like that could be in the notes app of your phone. It doesn't need to be
Mm,
anything fancy in a journal.
yeah, yeah. Oh, these are such great tips. Thank you for sharing those.
Yeah.
So let's see. I'm looking at now. You mentioned like briefly your journaling blueprint.
Mhm.
Um, I don't want to miss that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this is the process that I have, which I didn't realize that I had until I was going through my divorce and sharing on social media just that I was journaling, not even really opening up about my divorce, but a few people knew that I was going through my divorce and they could tell that I was basically not crumbling. And in
Mm,
fact, I was becoming more myself and stepping into who I was and like becoming more bold and happier. And they started to ask me, what are you doing? What are you journaling about? Something's working. And so that's when I actually went through my journals because I thought, I agree. I'm feeling so great, even though this is single-handedly the most difficult time of my life with, single parenting and going through a divorce. And I realized that there was a certain way that I was prompting myself through these deeper journal entries. And it wasn't every single time, but anytime it was like a really big emotion or an emotionally charged situation that happened with my ex, or again, like that people pleasing thing. I just couldn't get that out of my head of like, why am I doing this? That sort of thing. There was a certain way that I was prompting myself. And that's when I created this blueprint so that other people could take whatever it is that they're going through and prompt themselves so that it can be personal. It's not just another prompt for like a random sunny day that you can ask yourself. And it actually takes you through so that you don't get stuck in the middle of it and you get to that like the meat of what's actually going on, what you're actually feeling, and then to the clarity of what you actually want, and then how to get it with those steps.
yeah. And
Yeah.
okay, so then I think you said that you have like a something that you share with people to kind of walk them through this. Oh,
Yes.
yes, let me do this. You're sharing your screen. Perfect.
Okay. Yep. So let me make it a little bit bigger. Can you see the
Yep.
Calm Mind Blueprint screen? Okay. Yeah. So I call it the Calm Mind Blueprint because I feel like in the beginning, you have these overwhelming thoughts or doubtful thoughts. You're questioning yourself, chaotic, all the things. And then at the end, I truly feel a sense of inner peace and direction, no matter what it is that I'm going through. So there's 5 steps. The way that I think about it to remember each of the steps is always make cotton candy again. It makes no sense, but that's why I remember it. So I'm going to go through each one and then you can maybe go through an example. But the first step is awareness. So this is the simply becoming aware. Awareness is always the first step in healing, right? We all probably know that, but just becoming aware of what is it that's actually happening? What's on your mind? We're breaking down the situation, the emotion. If you're feeling um, like you're doubting yourself or your ex said something that really ruffled your feathers, or honestly, just yesterday, I stood up for myself. I'm going on vacation soon, and I gave my ex the option to watch my son, my son, our son, um, for a week because it's a long time. So actually did want him to come up and watch him so that I didn't need my parents for that whole time. And he said he could only do it if he could stay at my house and borrow my car for the whole week. And I said, yeah. And I said no, which I'm so proud of myself because the old version of me would be like, sure, it would be best for our son. And yes, why not? But, anyways, I said no. And just yesterday, he sent me this huge rant on why I'm the worst person in the world why I'm not allowing him to do this. And so just breaking down oh, and I didn't respond right away, going back to the response. I actually still have yet to respond to him. So in the past, it would be like, why do I feel the urge to respond? Or
Mm,
why do I feel bad not responding? Do I feel bad for his situation? Do I feel at fault here?
mm,
What's causing this situation, or what's causing the situation? What was my role in it? Really is just this whole thing is attacking everything from all angles.
yeah.
Next is the meaning. So this is starting to understand everything that you just wrote down and what is the meaning that you're attaching to it or the judgment behind it. I love this one. So we can just keep going with that example. We'll do the example throughout. So with the responding, I would maybe think I am a mean, bad person if I don't respond, or he is judging me. He will think I'm a bad mom if I'm not responding and if I'm not letting him stay at my house, because that would mean I'm not letting my son stay at my house while he's watching him, right? All of these assumptions. I might be also judging myself of if I don't let him stay here, that means I'm kicking my son out of my house. What kind of mom kicks her son out of her house while I'm doing this, right? While I'm
Yeah.
on vacation. What kind of mom leaves her son for a full week to go on vacation herself? All of these judgments. So you're asking the what, the why, the who. I mentioned earlier, I know we're not supposed to socially think like, what are other people thinking of me? But we
Mhm.
think that anyways. So
We
this is
do.
why, yeah, this is why you want to think, what are other people thinking of me?
Yeah.
What am I judging them for? What do I think they're judging me for? And just getting it all out there.
Yeah.
And then you could also ask yourself, when did I first feel or think this, if you wanted to kind of go down the rabbit hole?
Mm,
The next step is curiosity. And this is getting curious about the truth of your beliefs. They say that mom guilt is actually not guilt at all. It's the root of it is shame.
mm,
That there is a underlying feeling of like you're feeling bad and shameful about the thing that you're doing. But shame is that you literally did something wrong that you should not, like you can, like you should be going to jail for something, right?
right.
And like going off on vacation for a week, does that mean that I'm a bad mom? No, that does not mean that I'm a bad mom. That means to me that I'm recharging because I have full custody. I'm recharging. I'm going to be coming back a better mom with more patience, with more presence because I'm almost burning out potentially, right? Um, so, and basically everything you wrote down in the meaning, question the truth. Is it true? Is basically what I ask. Is it true that I'm a bad mom for not letting my ex stay in my house? No, I feel like that's a completely fine boundary. My past self maybe would have questioned that, but that this is where you pause to ask that. Because when you are in the thick of it, where some of you guys might be like, I don't know, we just assume that that's true. So
Mm,
this is like the best part of the blueprint is the pause of saying, is that true? And if it feels true, and there's you don't the goal is not to say no. There is definitely situations where you say yes. In fact, I used this the other day and the answer was yes and no. But it's simply pausing to question and maybe saying, if this is true, could it also not be true? Again, just attacking it from all angles, opening up your perspective.
What else could be true?
Yes, yeah,
Those
exactly.
kind of questions. Yeah.
Yeah. I just heard the other day, if you believe that one thing is true, you must also have to believe the opposite is true.
Mm,
So, kind of one of my clients is starting retreats, or not starting, she's been doing retreats for the past year, hosting them. And she just booked a retreat house for September. And her belief is that she should not have done it. She's not going to earn any money on it. Nobody's going to sign up for it. And I was like, then cancel it. And she was like, um, but no, because like she has this deep inner knowing. We were talking about self-trust because I'm like, you have this deep inner knowing that you need to be doing this retreat, that you know that it's going to be like something that you need to be doing. And so I said, if you believe that this is going to break the bank and put you in debt, you can also choose to believe that this is going to be the retreat that sets you free, that pays off all of your debt. So just kind
mm,
of flipping it.
yeah.
clarity. Finally, we get to the point of like, okay, now that you know the whole situation, the judgments that you're attaching to it, and if those are accurate, now you can ask, what is it that you actually want? And it's going to be so much deeper than if you would have asked that in step two,
Mm,
because it's not just the opposite of what you're going through.
mhm,
It's emotional, it's tangible. There's so many different things that will come to you now at this point. So, what you actually want in this situation, I want to be able to go on vacation and trust who my son is with. I want to be able to go on vacation and not doubt myself that I am a bad mom. I want to be able to go on vacation with my son someday, right? You can just go on the down the rabbit hole of like, I always say too, whenever you feel the urge to spiral, spiral. Like that's your
mhm.
brain telling you what else needs to be uncovered. So at any point, if you're like, I want to go in this direction,
Oh, so
go
the
there.
spiral can be good, when you
Yes.
have this process.
Yes. The best. That's it's telling you like what needs to be uncovered, which is more important than these prompts.
Yeah.
Lastly, action. This is the turning it into micro steps. So, what can you do to move closer to that goal and break it down into teeny tiny steps? So, in the example that we've randomly been giving throughout, um, what I could do is think of, since my ex is not going to be coming, who I could make a list of all the people who I could have watch my son. And realistically, it's just going to be my parents. And they have already said that they're comfortable watching my son, but I still truly doubt that they mean it. And
Mm,
so I think that they will do it because they love me, but I would also like to have some sitters in place. So I could also make a list of who are all of my sitters.
mm,
I could also, another action step is reaching out to the sitters to see if they're free. Another step is solidifying who will watch my son, when.
mm,
I love another example of this is just when you're feeling overwhelmed. So we could do this whole example of just overwhelmed, too much on your to-do list, all of the things. By the time we get to the action step, it's the fact that you've realized throughout this that the dentist appointment that you make, every 6 months for your kids, they're scheduled out, but yours has been sitting on your to-do list for the past 3 months. And so the micro steps would be look up the phone number for your dentist. And then the second step would be call them because sometimes just clearly it's sitting on your to-do list for 3 months. You're not taking that action, but
mm,
I guarantee it, you would look up the phone number and write it down. And then you might call them at that time. And if you do, great, but that you don't have to because tomorrow is when you would call the number and I guarantee you will do it because you just have to look down and the phone number's already there. You don't
mm.
have to then go look it up. So that's what I mean by like micro steps. It's teeny tiny. When I needed to have that conversation with my ex, the what I actually did was I typed it up in a letter because I didn't feel confident enough speaking it out loud. And so my action steps were outlining it in a Google Doc. And then the next step was filling in those bullet points of like, what do I actually mean? And then proofreading it and then printing it off and then working up the courage to actually giving it to him.
Mm,
Right. So many different examples of taking action of you can do like big picture things, but then also what are the things that I can do today in the teeniest, tiniest amount so that I actually do it.
yeah. Yeah. I'm loving this.
So that's it.
Oh, okay. So, I
That's a
mean, I
lot.
feel like you already kind of covered this, but I would love to hear like, did you have an aha moment where you're like, holy, oh my gosh, I just did something I never would have done before. On some, like you said, something I'm doing is where you were getting that feedback from people in your life. Was there any one moment where you're just like, oh yeah.
I feel like I'm still getting these moments. Personally, I had one today that I'll share. And then with my clients, one of my favorite is my client, Jess. She was in a toxic work environment. So, relationships at work. And what happened was she has a chronic illness. She has MS,
Mm,
and she had a flare where she had to be working from home. She intercepted an email by mistake that was sent to her. And it was her boss and some other employees trying to get her fired. And she initially was feeling shame and doubt and like, who am I? And I should just like quit now. Why would I like show my face at this place? And feeling completely awful. And she and I were working together personally, but then also using this blueprint and customizing it based on what she was going through. And ultimately, she did end up leaving, but on her own terms and confidently and like standing in her worth and like trusting herself and who she is. And that was just one of my favorite powerful moments because she went from this like shame, and doubt and to this confident, glowing person, and knowing her worth. I feel like self-worth and self-trust is like the most beautiful attribute a woman can wear, and it takes time to believe it, but once you feel it, it's just incredible.
Yeah, it sure is. And you said you had one from your own
Oh,
story.
yeah, just not this isn't a self-worth one, but a breakthrough nonetheless. I just today, so I'm currently on a social media break.
Mhm.
And I was just overwhelmed with posting content and getting locked or sucked into the scroll type stuff. And I'm doing it for May, but as of right now, there's like 10 days left of this break. And yesterday I thought, I don't want to go back. Like I'm loving this like peace without it. And I love like not even having it on my phone. It just feels so
Mhm.
good. But
Mhm.
I'm like, obviously there's deeper things here, right? Like I'm avoiding something. And so I was thinking about it and going through the blueprint. One of the breakthroughs, especially in the meaning category, was that, and this relates to self sabotage too, is that I relate social media to my avoider, which is my in my top saboteurs,
Mhm.
that my avoider, because I feel like I avoid my life, my business when I scroll during the workday. I feel like I avoid my son if he's home, which I don't even scroll that often. It's like for 5 minutes at a time, maybe 10 minutes, but it just feels like, when you're in that doom scroll vortex, it's like black goes around, you know what I mean? I
Yes.
hate that feeling, but it just happens. And so social media triggers my avoider, and social media also triggers my hyperachiever, which is another one of my sabotage patterns because social media, I use it for business ideas. I get like really creative posting ideas or parenting tips. I have a collection on Instagram called parenting tips or activities to do with my son. And it's inspiring things. Like I love all of these things, but my hyperachiever comes out and I'm like, I have to do all of these things and I need to do all of this. And it's just been so my clarity was I don't want that. And so one of my action steps is one of my potential, because I'm still sorting out what I want to do, but it's like I could not go back to Instagram. I could just go back to Facebook, Facebook is just easy. It doesn't have all of the in your face stuff. So
Mhm.
still sorting through that, but that's where sometimes I want to mention if it's a heavy thing, which social media is not that heavy, but when I was going through divorce stuff and ex stuff, you'll go through that blueprint multiple times for the same thing. So you might not get to the solution that day. It might take a couple times.
Yeah, some of these things are so complex. There's so many, like even just the first section, the awareness section, like you could list half a dozen feelings that
Yeah.
all are like tied to different meanings. And I can see
Yeah.
how you could map out quite some interesting.
So, where I would recommend people start is what I call an emotional brain dump because it is kind of overwhelming of like I'm aware of so many things, right? And so
Mhm.
I would do an emotional brain dump. And what that is write down everything that's on your brain, starting off with your to-do list, just because that's really easy for people. So write down everything that you have to do today. And then get into like, what did your ex say to you recently that like is still under your skin? What did
Mm.
so and so say to you? And just kind of type it on. And I would type this, not journal it, because then you can do it faster. And then once you feel like, all right, it's all out, reread, like skim it and
Mhm.
see what words popped out. What words did you say the most? What names did you say the most? And that's where you need to dig in first. So you might say the word overwhelm 15 times. You might say the word Dave a million times. You know what? You might say like certain names or emotions, and that's where you know, oh, I didn't even know that that one situation at work was still on my mind, or I didn't even know he said that thing to me 3 years ago, and that's still like
Yep.
what I'm making decisions off of, or I'm still doubting myself of that. So that's that brain dump list is then where I would say pick the heaviest one that's weighing on you and start that blueprint with that as your awareness.
Oh yeah, and then when you're searching it, you can even just be like, how many times did I say overwhelm? Find it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
actually that gives it like you just mentioned this. I want to just ask, you mentioned earlier like the brain to hand connection. Was it brain to hand connection?
Mhm.
Um so I guess I was just assuming you were doing all of this by hand in a journal. When do you type? When do you do by hand? Like what is kind of like your guidelines for that?
Yeah, great question. So I personally type when it's your first time, like an emotional brain dump. If it's also your first time journaling, just in general, I suggest typing because often you have a lot to say. And I do have clients that like spend an hour type or writing. And I'm like, you don't need to do that, but they just don't stop. And so if you can't stop yourself, I would say type it just to get it all out quicker. And then I would also suggest typing if you know yourself and you're not going to write, because typing is better than not journaling, than not tapping into your emotions at all. However, personally, I write in my journal most of the time. I only will type if I am really heated about something and want to like vent.
Mhm.
That's when I will type because I can get it out faster. But if I really want to process something, you need to slow down. And when you're writing, as you're writing out the question or just the thing that's making you angry or doubting yourself, you're writing slow enough typically that your mind is already starting to find solutions.
Mhm.
And so by the time you finish that line, you might think of what to say next or like once you have experience with it, you might think of another prompt to ask yourself and it'll come up of like, well, do I really think that? And
Mhm.
then you'll have another, like you'll answer that in your brain and you can write that out. So it's kind of like a conversation in your head that will help you get to an actual answer. Whereas when you're typing, it's kind of like almost like on autopilot of just like you jump to the next thing really fast.
Yeah, 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 I can totally see that. Okay. Well, any other insights or any other thing that you didn't get a chance to cover yet?
I think the last thing I would say is regarding self-worth. It's so sneaky, and losing your self-worth is so sneaky. I never would have thought I would say that I had low self-esteem and low self-worth. I
Mhm.
thought I would say that I am an example of high self-esteem and high self-worth 5 years ago before I even got divorced. And now looking back, I'm like, that's cute. Like there was so much to work through. And so what I would say is that journaling will help you uncover so much. And so I gave the tip earlier of like make a list of all these things, but there's so much that we like on a conscious level are just unaware of. And so you will uncover little tiny bits and pieces that will make you go, what did I just write? Like, do I really believe that? And I'm giving you permission to be as petty as you want in your journal,
Yeah,
misspell, rewrite, like it be as
yeah.
messy as you want, all the things, right? Um, but yeah, self-worth will come naturally. Even if you
Mhm.
don't want it, because of the process and the blueprint, you will be uncovering things and you will start to trust yourself. You will start to uncover your actual inner voice, separate from who you used to be, separate from who you were with told you to be.
Mhm.
All of that will just naturally happen without you even asking those questions.
Yeah, yeah, and it's big, huge payoffs. Like when you have that sense, it's you just get into this place where you don't give F's. Like and it's not,
Yeah.
there's this some a gal that I follow made a distinction between the person who says she doesn't give F's and then the person who like didn't even think to, oh, I guess I could have given it. I don't care. Like
Yeah.
that's like a next level. And I truly believe that that's possible for anybody. So,
Yeah.
so where can our listeners find your blueprint?
Yeah, so the link is my website, Samantha, www.samanthapenkoff.com/calm hyphen mind. So I'll share the link with you.
Okay, great.
And it's a lot, right? We covered a lot of that today. So you'll get the Calm Mind Blueprint for free. And it also comes with a private podcast where it's just 5 episodes where I give you voice guidance through each of the prompts.
Oh,
So that way you can listen to it as you're journaling and I kind of like prompt you as you're writing. And then the way that it's set up is either you can do it all in one shot, which is about 10 to 15 minutes. That's it.
mhm.
Or I have it set up where you can do it as a 5 day challenge where you're just doing one of the prompts each day, especially because if you're newer to this, that awareness prompt alone could take 10 minutes, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, you can do it each way.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I know that people are going to snag that up. That just sounds like such a great process to go through. I'm looking forward to going through it myself, actually.
Yeah, I still use it. It's amazing.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I will make sure to include those links in the show notes. And I really just appreciate you. Well, by the way, did I use the wrong last name? Did I use like an old name?
Oh, no, Hawley is my maiden name and current name.
Okay.
My business website is still my married name.
Oh, gotcha.
Um, I do have of the website www.samantha-says.com,
Oh,
but
yeah.
any attached link that goes anywhere, it has to have the other name. So
Got you.
unfortunately, working on changing that.
I hear you. I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Um,
divorce problems.
yeah, exactly. The name changing is like the quite an issue. It's just like a pain in the
Yeah.
butt. Okay, well, we'll make sure that whatever the link is, we'll get them to the proper the proper link. And then Samantha says is your Instagram, which you take breaks from. Do you have the same thing for Facebook?
Yeah, this is the first break I've done in May. We'll see how long it goes for. It is Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
But I do have Facebook. I'm active typically on both. And then I have a weekly newsletter that you will also receive if you get the Calm Mind Blueprint. And that includes a strategic journal prompt in each one of the newsletters. And then my podcast is journal entries.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. This has been just an incredible conversation. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.